Welcome to the For You Lord Ministries weekly teachings. I'm his servant, Kenneth Sterling, and this week we have some advice that all of us should start to adhere to, and that advice is learn to hear what God is telling you. All right, we're going to go ahead and get into today's lesson. Okay, so today we're going to be in First Chronicles. We're going to begin with the 14th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 8. And when the Philistines heard that David was anointed king over all Israel, all the Philistines went up to seek David. And David heard of it and went out against them. And the Philistines came and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. And David inquired of God, saying, Shall I go up against the Philistines? And wilt thou deliver them into mine hand? And the Lord said unto him, Go up, for I will deliver them into thine hand. So they came up to Baal Perazim, and David smote them there. Then David said, God hath broken in upon mine enemies by mine hand, like the breaking forth of waters. Therefore they called the name of that place Baal Perazim. And when they had left their gods there, David gave a commandment, and they were burned with fire. And the Philistines yet again spread themselves abroad in the valley. Therefore David inquired again of God. And God said unto him, Go not up after them, turn away from them, and come upon them over against the mulberry trees. And it shall be, when thou shalt hear a sound of going in the tops of the mulberry trees, that then thou shalt go out to battle. For God is gone forth before thee to smite the host of the Philistines. David therefore did as God commanded him, and they smote the host of the Philistines from Gibeon even to Gazer, and the fame of David went out into all lands, and the Lord brought the fear of him upon all nations. Amen. All right. So the biggest thing that keeps us from hearing God is us. And that's something that we continually have to work on, but it's something that we need to go ahead and try to get fixed quickly, family. So in verse 10, David inquires of God, should he go out against the Philistines in battle? And God tells David to go ahead, because I will help you to vanquish your enemies. And David does as God says, and he's successful in battle. Amen. But then it's a little bit more interesting when we get to like verse 14, 15, and 16. In verse 14, David inquires of God in a different battle a little bit later on and asks God the same question. Should I go against his enemies, the Philistines? This time God says, wait. God tells David to wait and don't attack them now, to turn away from them. And then he tells them to go not at the area where David was going to try to go against them, but wait till they get over near the mulberry trees. And then at those mulberry trees, even then, God says, wait until you hear the sounds in the top of the trees. That's what we don't do all the time. We're so caught up with doing things the way that we want to do. And as a result, it does not work out for us, family. And that's the things that we have to get in our head. We can't do things our way. We're so used to, in this world, making decisions on our own and, thinking that we know everything, trying to be too smart. But we got to become more spiritually intelligent, more spiritually aware, more spiritually smart, if you will. Book smarts is one thing, Degrees is one thing, but being smart and being obedient and aware and listening to God is something totally different. And so when David listens to God, the situation changed. God didn't tell him to attack the same way. And as a result of him listening and waiting, like God said, wait till his enemy gets over near the mulberry trees, he was successful as well. Now, we don't know what might have happened if David would have went on and attacked the enemy in this second battle quickly, the way that he did in the first battle on his own, not listening to God. But I know this, within my life, I know there's been things that the Lord has told me to do. When I didn't listen to what God say, it didn't work out for me. Amen. When I did do the things that God told me to do, those things did work out for me. And listen at the precise nature, the way that God told David to do it. God told him to wait specifically till he heard the noises up in the top of the mulberry trees. We get impatient. We want to go ahead and do things on our own, and then we're in a world of trouble. God will lead you if you let him. God spoke to David and gave him instruction, and he speaks to us as well. We just have to do a better job of listening to him, a better job of hearing him. Sometimes there's a voice that might come through in your psyche, use a natural term, or to come through in your spirit, to use a spiritual term. Or I like to say that I can hear it. I know it might not make that sense naturally, but I like to say I can hear it with my heart. And if you have that relationship with God, if he's speaking to you, you know it's coming from him. And that's what I mean by you can hear it with your heart. Again, it might not make sense in natural terms and about, people that consider themselves to be intelligent. But like I said earlier, your relationship with God is not something about what's written in black and white. It's not something about what the world considers to be intelligence. It's a spiritual thing, spiritual awareness that's different. But anyway, so the Lord might speak to you and implant something, a notion, or even words. I've seen words that come into my psyche, and it comes from God. Amen. Also, I talked about the Bible last week. I believe every word that's in the Bible, to me, is not a book of fairy tales. And the Bible gives a lot of different illustrations and examples of the people, God speaking to the people through dreams. And that's something also that I've had. Now you better be careful. I can't talk about one side without talking about the enemy as well, because you have to be careful, because he'll try to come in and disrupt the things that are of God, and he'll try to implant things, notions in your head as well. He'll try to come into maybe your dreams as well. But if you had a relationship with the Lord, you know the difference. You know when it's coming from God. This particular lesson is I'm probably going to make a two-parter out of this one, and another way in which God speaks through you is through the man of God. So if you're at a church, or you have maybe just a spiritual advisor, somebody who have a connection with God, God will speak through that person as well to give you the things that you need to get from God. And that's what we're going to talk about in part 2, if it's the Lord's will, on next week. So David talked to a spiritual advisor, if you will, in Nathan the prophet. And Nathan the prophet had a word for David that was given to Nathan from God. All right, family. As always, I've enjoyed my time with you. Hope you guys have a good week and be safe. If it's the Lord's will, I'll see you guys next week. See you later.